Alright, we're on our final video of this Note 2, just putting the guts back in here. Got the LCD adhesed to the frame. And not much else to do here as we finish this off. Go through and just start piecing it back together, piece by piece. First thing we're going to start off with is some of the smaller pieces here we can put our front-facing camera in. And we do have the little housing. You're going to want to, when you put this in, slide it down and in first, and then we'll go ahead and put the screw in that holds this little locking frame in. Just hold it down and we'll insert the screw. Alright. Go ahead and put the earpiece speaker and the 3.5mm jack back in, and we'll put the screw in. Now actually insert this screw in correctly. It actually needs to go into the lower screw hole, and I'll fix it before I put the back case on, but it would mess that up. Put our power cable and the vibration module back in. Now the power button is glued or has a little bit of sticky tape here. If it's not sticking well, you may need to put a little bit more 3M tape just right behind it to make sure that it adheses here and it's easy to press. We'll do that just real fast, as mine, as I was peeling it off when I was removing it from the phone in the first part, lost its little piece of sticky tape. Just putting it right behind where the button depresses and then sticking the button back on. Perfect. Vibration module has enough sticky residue on there so that it shouldn't come loose. Go ahead and put this wire in that runs down underneath the logic board. Make sure that it slides into its guide slots. It's very important as you put the logic board back in that it's in its slots. We'll use this dental pick to kind of depress it in. Make sure you have enough space at the top to re-adhere to the logic board. Normally it should be in this, if you didn't mess with it too much as you took it out of the slot, it should have its same kind of bends, and you can see where it fits back into the frame. Making sure that's in there nice and snug. Alright, we can go ahead and put our logic board back in. Make sure that you pull all these ribbon cables back up. And the rear facing camera is still attached, so we won't have to put that in separately. Just make sure it seats properly as you put this in. Just kind of pulling back some of the ribbon cables here. The front-facing camera to seat well. You can start putting down some of these ribbon cables. The front-facing camera, the S Pen, the digitite or the LCD, and then the home button and the power button. And here is our. I have one that's underneath here. Putting our home button cable back down here as well. There is a screw that fits in right here. It was a black screw. Put this back in to hold the logic board down in place. We can go ahead and put this wire cable back onto its connector here. These can be a little bit tricky. Make sure you get them lined up before you start pressing too hard on them. They can bend fairly easy. There we go. Pry this up so when we put our next board down here, it'll sit nice and upwards. We'll put this little ribbon cable that runs down the left-hand side here as well. There is a screw that holds this in as well, same little black glue. So we'll go ahead and put that in. We can then run the ribbon cable down its guide slot as well, making sure that it's nice and flush so when we put the backing on it doesn't kink it or bend this. Alright, down here at the bottom, our charging port back in. Go ahead and connect it to the logic board as well. And then we can put our little wire connector back onto this board. Can be a little tricky sometimes. Like I say, make sure you get them nice and lined up. You can flex them a little bit and twist them if you need to, without worrying too much of it shorting out. There we go. Put our little rear speaker port over here as well. It does have a screw that holds it down. Go ahead and put that in. Now, as I was reaching for the mid-frame, I realized that screw was out here in the 3.5mm jack. So we'll go ahead and fix that as well. So the one up here at the top, this screw actually goes in the lower screw port instead of the upper one. There's a rear screw that's actually in that port. So make sure you, when you're reassembling, you put it in the correct spot.
Case on.
Right here.
It will not fit correctly.
Make sure that the home button functions properly. Alright, now we can take our rear housing and go ahead and snap it back on. Now, the easiest way to do this is to slide the top in first and snap around the edges as you go. And this one's being a little bit funky. It doesn't want to snap back in for some reason. And I lost a little grommet. It looks like it's underneath, in between the frame and the logic board, so I'll have to take my housing back off as we go around here.
Stuck in between the frame.
So bear with me for just a few seconds. This can happen.
Right up in here.
And part of the reason why you want to insert the top portion, or where the speakers at the top, is there's a little rubber grommet that goes for the 3.5mm jack that you want to make sure you slide in first. There's the little grommet that we were looking for. It kind of fell out. I'm just going to take the frame off and make sure it gets back in there nice and snug before I start putting it back on. This frame is always a little tricky. There's a lot of connectors on the sides.
Clip right in here that never wants to release.
Pull this little clip here and it should pop off for us. A little grommet on the 3.5mm jack to make sure it sits nice and flush. Go ahead and put this little dust cover back in the rear frame here. Alright, we'll try again. We'll insert the top first. Slide it in at the top. We can snap it back down. Now as you go through, and it'll actually snap onto the frame, and sometimes you'll need to apply a little pressure to the sides to get the clip actually to sit flush as you go around. Home button feels a little bit weak at this point, but as you start adhering the screws in the back, it might pull it a little bit flatter and give it more room to depress. So don't stress on that too much. We're just going to double check and make sure that the phone's going to power on, that all the connectors are set correctly before we go too much further, which it is. Everything's looking good. Alright, one of the last steps we have to do is go ahead and put in the 11 silver screws into the back. They'll hold that plastic frame down. Excellent. Digitizer's functioning correctly for us. Alright. Go ahead and put in our remaining screws in the back. This phone's come a long way from being completely shattered. Now if you do this correctly, this fix can cost you just like $30 total to do. The glass, the glue, and the 3M tape are pretty inexpensive if you have the tools to do it already. Definitely a lot cheaper than buying a new $600 or $700 phone. And you can really make it look as if it's brand new. You could even buy a new rear frame here if yours is dinged or dented and replace that as well. Alright, making great progress. There's a few more screws to go here. These screws don't have to be extremely tight. Just want to make sure that they are snug. Don't want to strip them out. Alright, everything is looking good. Go ahead and put our back rear battery cover on here. Just make sure we snap it all into place. Our S Pen goes back in.
Alright.
Home button feels a lot better than it did. Just unlocking, double check, make sure everything's nice and snug. Alright, that is it. This is the full Note 2 LOCA completion from start to finish, everything that needs to happen to make sure it worked. If you liked the video, go ahead and hit the like button. I appreciate you guys watching this and future videos to come. Thanks a lot.